Hello everybody. Welcome to another Social Distance Learning brought to you by the Liberal Gun Club. Tonight we're going to talk about color filling. And apparently that is what it's called. If you would know of any other terms for what we're going to do here, please feel free to throw them in chat, because Scott and I were trying to figure out if there were other terms and we couldn't come up with any. This video is currently being streamed out of Zoom to Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. So we can't stream to YouTube because they don't like it when we handle firearms with live sessions. But it will be put up on the LGC YouTube channel later. So everybody knows, all participants but the moderators and the presenter have their video shut off and are muted. If there are any questions, please put them in the Discord Q&A channel or inside the Zoom chat. And we have several people. Well, actually, no, today it's just me. I am looking for questions. So if you have them there, put them, like I said, Zoom chat, SDL chat on Discord. I don't think we have anyone watching the other places though, like Twitter, Twitch, and so on. The easiest way to get your question answered though is to become a member, sign into Zoom directly, and type in the chat. Being a member is inexpensive. It's about $10 a year for our lowest package, and it brings other benefits with it. After we do our social distance learning, we also do something called pub chat, where we all get together on Discord and just sit BS and talk. I've put the link to Discord in the channel. Please feel free to join us there. And now on to Scott and color filling.
Hey, good afternoon. I had a lot of questions about this recently, and somebody requested that I show people how to do it. So I thought I'll show you how I do it. I'm sure there are other methods and materials that you can use, but this is the method that I use, and I've had really good success with it. I've heard people using crayons, but I'm not sure how that would work. I don't know if you melt it and drip it into the image, or do you rub it on there? I tried a couple of different things and I couldn't really get it to work very well. And people said, well, that's a temporary way to do it. But as I was telling Kyle before we started, that this really isn't a permanent modification to your gun or part. It can be reversed. It's not hard. It is pretty durable, but if you decide later on down the road that you don't like the look of it, you can fix it pretty easily or just remove it altogether. One of the most popular things that the most common things that I do with it is, you see on building an AR, a lot of times these safe and fire engravings aren't color filled. Some are, some aren't, or sometimes they're just silk screened on there. But these are engraved, so I like to color fill this one white and this one red, just to, in case somebody unfamiliar with the weapon would know how to use it, or know what those mean. So that's one I do on just pretty much any AR lower that I have that is engraved. So I thought I'd show you a couple of different things. I'm going to color fill several things and kind of give you some tips as I go. I've used Tester's model paint. You can go to a hobby store and pick up. There's a pretty good variety of colors there. But also works just as well, if not better, is fingernail polish, which is even more fun to shop for. As a guy, it's fun to watch everybody take a double take as you're trying to select the perfect shade of nail polish. I don't have very many with me today. I have a red and I have a bright orange, which, I'm an Oregon State fan, so I like black and orange. And then I have white. White's a really common color, and you don't need to spend a lot of money on expensive nail polish. The cheaper, the better. And then I use a just Walmart generic brand of nail polish remover. This, I didn't realize, it has some weird cherry smell to it. I don't know, make it more appetizing, but it's non-acetone, and it works pretty well, and it's cheap. So, but acetone will work on this as well. I like the non-acetone, just because I don't like to use a lot of harsh chemicals on the finishes of guns. I've never wrecked the finish of a gun. The only time you would run into trouble would be if it was a spray painted gun. The anodized and the Cerakote isn't affected by any of this at all, but it will remove, the paint won't hurt the spray paint, but touching it up and removing the unwanted material will take the rattle can paint jobs off. So just as a warning, if I were not sure, I would probably try somewhere like in the mag well or down here where you're not going to see it if you have any questions as to whether the finish of your gun is going to be affected by any of this. So this is a Smith & Wesson AR-15 lower, and it's a good piece for this demonstration because we have this intricate logo over here. I don't know if I can really get a look at it here. Let me see. You can see the intricacies of this logo, and it has, all this kind of fancy, this fancy font. And then we have the standard ATF specified size and depth for the Smith & Wesson Rollmark, the verbiage. And then we have the safe and fire. So I thought I'd kind of mess around and do this one because this is a little harder to do, and you might have to do it in a couple of passes. The bigger and deeper the engraving is, the easier it is to color fill it quickly and not a lot of passes. But I also have a couple of other things. This is an example of one of the ones that's hard to do. This is a SIG 320 slide off my subcompact, and it is deep, but it's a very thin line. It's not a real wide gap or crevice to try to get the paint down into. So this one we may struggle with a little bit, but it'll be an interesting experiment. And then I'll show you, we'll reverse color fill something as well. We'll take it back off just to show that you can. This is just a socket wrench I had, or a socket drive that I had, and it's nice and deeply engraved. And it's chrome, so figure we can color fill this just for the fun of it, and you'll see that it's fairly simple to remove if we need to. So anyway, I'll go ahead and get started. I was thinking about, I think a lot of people bought those LGC lowers, and they were asking, that's where the subject of color filling it came up, because they have those cool images. I was regretting not buying one because I wanted the snowflake, and I wanted to color fill it like bright white or pink or something, just to give the FUDs at my gun club a little bit of a thrill. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on this. I usually pre-clean everything with like rubbing alcohol, or you can use whatever solvent you want. You just want to degrease it and get any oils and grease out of it. And if it's a well-maintained gun, it's going to have a lot of oil and grease in it. So I just kind of give it a light scrubbing with some rubbing alcohol. Make sure that it's kind of like when you color fill, you want the chemical to get down into the engraving. So I kind of push a little bit as I do this, just to make sure that removes everything deep down. And I'm just going to dry it real quick. Normally this stuff evaporates quickly, but and we can do multiple colors on this just for the fun of it. So anyway, all right. So I think what I'm going to do is do the logo maybe in white, and then the lettering in orange. Just, I don't know, for some contrast. So what I do, I have this is an old ID badge from work, and it's about the thickness of a credit card. You can use a business card, but they're not quite as rigid enough. I like this thickness. This works really well for me. So really all you need is that, your colors, nail polish, or paint, whatever you're using. These have the self applicators in the top, so you really don't need much. The model paint, you need a paintbrush. This isn't a very fine one, but I would use, a nice fine tip. It's okay when you put this stuff on. I'll go ahead and do the white first. The nice thing about it is I have a lathe, so mixing this stuff up, I don't have to walk around the house shaking them all the time. I just chuck it up in the lathe and spin it for a few minutes. But you do want to shake it up to mix it all up. So I just dab a little bit off so it's not dripping off of the applicator. And I just kind of brush it on there. And you want it on there pretty thick. And don't worry about excess or getting it where you don't want it, because we can clean that up. And we're going to clean it up, but it will leave a little bit of a film on the matte finish of the anodizing. Don't worry about that. It comes off easier when it's dry. So once we've applied it to the area we want, this may take multiple colors because that's fairly detailed roll mark. But I take my card and I want to go away from the writing that's on so I want to go this way so I don't drag any of that white paint into the rest of the wording there. So I just press firmly and then skim it right across the top like that. Clean off my edge. Make sure I remove the bulk of it. Okay, and then I'm going to take a clean patch or cloth, whatever you got, and you get your nail polish remover. And you can clean up. You don't want to saturate this. You don't want it dripping because it'll get down in there and just remove the color you just put on. So I'm going to use it. I don't know if this will show up, but see the haze around the white. It's not really focused well, but there's a light haze everywhere. So that's what I'm just going to remove while it's still a little bit damp, but I'm not going to be too meticulous about it because like I said, it's easier to clean up when it's dry. So I just want to remove the light stuff off the top right now. If you do this too much, it'll take it right off of the entire lower. So there's still a haze in the middle of the roll mark here too. So it's not quite as crisp as it will look when we're done, but I don't know if that's giving you a look at what it looks like, but you'll see that there's a white haze in there. So that's, you could do multiple coats too. Sometimes with these really intricate little roll marks, it's hard to get the paint deep down into some of these really weird swirls and angles and things like that. So, don't worry about it. If you have to do another pass at it, just do another pass. So I'm going to take my orange now, and this will be a little bit interesting because, another thing is I would get some nail polish remover and make sure that your edge is clean because you don't want to mix that white with the other colors that you're going to be using here. So here, normally, I think I should have done the bottom first. So, but I'm going to have to kind of scrape it this way without getting any orange in the white logo there. But I don't know if you can see how close they are together. So we may get a little bit of mixing there, but if so, we'll just redo it. So I'm going to be a little more careful applying this so I don't mix it too much. And, there's no real need to apply it super thin or super thick. Super thick really doesn't do you any good. It's easier. It's better to just make another pass than it is to try to, get a ton of paint down into some of the more difficult roll marks. So just fill that in. Okay. My top back on. All right, now I get to try to do this without, because I have this raised edge right here, so I can't just scrape it this way. Now maybe I can, and then just clean it up later, but I don't know how that's going to work. Yeah, that worked okay. So it leaves you a nice line right there on your badge, clean that off. Okay. And I don't know if you can see that. See, it's a little bit light at the end of the Smith and the beginning of the Wesson. So that's, not quite as crisp as I would want. So I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit more on there. You could just let it dry and then do this, but you guys don't want to. I mean, I know I'm as boring as watching paint dry, but we don't have to do it literally. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill it back in.
Well, while you're filling that back in, one of the questions, or two of the questions, would gel nail polish, the kind needing UV light, work? And is it more durable than plain nail polish? Have you even done that?
I have never tried it, and I really my experience with nail polish, believe it or not, is strictly limited to color filling firearms. So I really don't know. I wouldn't. I'd certainly try it. I'd certainly give it a whirl. And this is fairly durable. It's it's lasted years on some of my guns. I touch it up frequently, if things get too messed up. But see, I'm wiping this down, and I've already removed a little bit of the color, so I'm gonna have to second coat that. But that's all right. I mean, so that's the basics of it. I'm gonna once it's dry, it should be dry by the end of the video. We'll come back and touch it up and clean it up, and I'll show you how we're gonna remove that white haze. So now we'll do the safe and fire. Unfortunately, when I grabbed this red, it was the reddest red I could find, but I would really prefer something lighter because this doesn't show up well against the black once I tested it out. So next time I'll have to pick up something a little less red, or a little lighter than that, but that's okay. Do the white on the safe.
Isn't light red just pink, Scott?
What's that?
Isn't light red just pink?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my dad would sit here and argue paint colors with you all night because he was a commercial artist. To me, there's just varying shades.
It was very much tongue in cheek. My apologies.
Yeah.
Apparently, people took it seriously, according to at least one of the comments in the chat. Not what I meant. And I'm colorblind, so that doesn't help either.
Yeah. All right. So I'm gonna let that. I will do the red first. So just press. See, the red is so dark that it hardly shows up. So I really don't like that shade of red. So I'm gonna have to find something a little bit lighter. It's funny, I'm taking this gun to Thunder Ranch next weekend, so it'll be interesting with all this fancy paint all over it, how much Clint Smith will yell at me. It's fine. I'm used to it. Grab my badge, clean that off again. So now I'm going to do the safe. My safety out of the way. And this is a little bit harder just because I can't get in there. So, but the nice thing about this is it's cheap and it's easy. It's not a hard thing to do, and it only costs you, I don't know, I think one of these bottles of nail polish was like $1.99. So it wasn't expensive at all. But now you can see how well that safe shows up. That's why I like to do it on these engraved lowers. The fire isn't nearly as red as I'd hoped, but I'll put another coat on there. Yeah, somebody said mix a little bit of white with the red. That's a good idea. Wonder if I could, let's experiment. What the heck, right? Let's put some red on there, make a little artist palette. What could possibly go wrong?
Now you need a happy little tree, and there are no accidents, right?
Right. Other than my shop smelling like a nail salon. Stir that up with something. Oh, yeah, that makes it a little brighter. right, now let's get my paintbrush, brush that on there. Yeah, see that red is still just disappearing into the black there. Yeah, it's still, I need something that's way lighter than I thought. That's unfortunate, but that's all right. I'll live. I'll have to go nail polish shopping again. Now it's funny, my local Walmart just down the hill from me is where I buy this stuff, and it's just hilarious to see the looks. You know, some guy wearing a pair of Carhartt pants and a beat up jacket and a baseball cap, boots, buying nail polish. I always laugh and wonder what people think. Not that I care. But anyway, so I don't know if that's get a little more light on it. It's not showing up on the camera very bright, but it's a little brighter than it looks. So that's how I do the safe and fire on these receivers. You could probably do it on an AK as well, as long as it's engraved. So, well, that's a dressed up Smith & Wesson M&P. Make sure when I'm going to let that dry for a minute, and then we'll come back and remove that haze. So let's do something easy. Let's do this Craftsman socket drive here, ratchet. This will be easy. You know, I worry a little bit about this lasting long against this chrome or a nickel finish because it's so slick. There's really nothing for the paint to bite onto, but it will at least be cool visually just because of the contrast. So now let's try this. There we go. All right, now let's clean that up. See, it took a little bit of the orange out of it, so I have to do another coat of it. Yeah, and I'll do a little bit with that gold model paint just to kind of show you how that, you know, but it pretty much works the same way. I'm not sure if the acetone free nail polish remover will clean it up though. So I have some regular acetone in case it doesn't. Down there. That's set for a minute. Any more questions up to this point? Or is everybody just laughing at what a buffoon I am?
No one's laughing yet, and there are no more questions as of right now. But I will keep you informed on either the laughing or the questions.
Okay, so you know that gives you. It's really hard to see with the light, but it's a little light on the C in Craftsman, but you know that's how I do it. Simple as that. And then, you know, to take it off, if you wanted to remove it at this point, you don't like the color, just get some nail polish remover, and you just have to make sure it gets down in the engraving pretty, you know, you got to kind of force it down in there and scrub it off. If you wanted to remove it after it's dry, you can soak it in the nail polish remover and it'll loosen it up, and you can just, you know, get it out that way. Sometimes I'll take a little pick, then you can just kind of trace the lettering with a pick and it'll come right out. It doesn't really bond to the finish on guns, and you know, like a car paint would. So but it's fairly abrasion resistant because it's below the surface of the gun, so it's not likely to get banged around and scratched up. So that's nice. So let's see here. Let's do a hard one. So I was talking about the you know, this one, you can see just how thin the font is, or the engraving is, on this 6 Hour P320 engraving. So these are hard to do because it's really difficult to get the polish to get down in there. And then when you go to clean it off, it's really easy to get the solvent down in there and remove it from your roll mark there. So these are a little bit tougher to do, these kind of really thin, detailed roll marks. We'll do the 320 as well. Why not? Yeah, so I'm just letting this set for a minute. See if gravity will help me. There we go. Kind of get it down into those grooves. So when I use my card on this, I'm going to really press this time to try to force that paint down in there to give it the best chance of getting deep into the engraving. I suppose that, you could probably do this on anything. It doesn't necessarily have to be a gun. But has a little pink in it because I was mixing the color. It didn't clean the applicator, but that's cool. Now this will be fun because I have it in these serrations. That'll be fun to clean out. But that worked okay. It got down there in there. But this is the difficult part, is cleaning up the mess. I think I would be inclined to just let this dry and then come back and clean it, because putting that much solvent on there is just going to remove it straight from the engraving. So I'm just going to try to trace the outline, and I'll remove the rest of it when it's dry. There we go. But it came out okay. It just needs to be cleaned up. But let's see if this is dry. It's funny, I have no idea how long nail polish takes to dry. Not a clue. So yeah, this appears to be pretty dry. So it is cleaning up nicely. The orange is a little bit less than ideal, but that's because it's so thin. That's working. All right, so now you'll notice that it has a much clearer definition after I dried it and got that white film off. I'm gonna have to redo the orange. It looks better in person than it does on camera. For whatever reason, it's not showing up on camera, but I think it's because it's a dark color on a dark background. The real contrast in colors work the best. This white looks really good against that black background. That's why I wanted to get one of the snowflake lowers and really enhance it with some white. The darker the color, the harder it is on the white or the black backgrounds. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of how it's supposed to look. Good or bad, but that's how I do it. Let's try something with the model paint. Set this aside. And okay, this will make some people cringe. It's a H&K USP slide. So I'm sure some HK purist out there is probably twitching right now. That's kind of why I do it. I was going to do the cold anaconda, but I thought Kyle would probably kill me. And my son talked me out of it. He said, no, I'll kill you in your sleep if you color fill that anaconda. But I was going to do it just because it's a fairly expensive gun, and just to prove that how non-destructive it is to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and just do the compact part of, make sure my brush is clean. All right, let's do some gold on this compact. Let's really pimp this up a bit. And this stuff is a little thicker, so it kind of applies better, but it's a little harder to remove and to kind of work with a little bit. But if you really, it works quite well. And the Testors, I don't know about this particular brand, but the Testors brand of model paints is pretty durable. I've had that stuff last for 5 or 6 years on some of the safe and fire color filling that I've done on some older guns. So let's go ahead and clean it. Yeah, see, this stuff is a little harder to work with. And it's just thicker, so it's harder to kind of scrape and work with, but it does give a good result. All right. Now let's touch up our trying the nail polish as a solvent, or the nail polish remover as a solvent, but you can see it's kind of drawing out the color out of the engraving, which is what I don't want to happen. So at this point, seeing that, I'm just going to let it dry and touch it up later. The thing is, don't get impatient with this. I think that's where a lot of people get really frustrated because it doesn't look perfect. And so they clean it all off, try it again, and keep doing that. And you'll never get there. Sometimes you just let it dry. And then the paint's fairly thick down inside the engraving. So it will dry. And then just a quick wipe will remove it from the surface without taking it all out of the roll mark. So that's my advice.
What dries faster with regards to the nail polish versus the paint?
I think the nail polish dries faster. I think, so there it is. Just after a quick scrub down, I'm going to let it dry and then remove the rest of it. But so that's gold, black and gold. So yeah, I'm a baller with that setup now. I think I should probably enhance the 45 auto more than the compact, but anyway. So any questions up to this point? Pretty straightforward stuff.
Nothing that hasn't been asked so far.
Oh, okay. All right. Just keep cleaning up the margins here and not get too much into the work. Yeah, I've always wanted to bedazzle a gun slide, just for the reactions, just for the attention. Go shoot an IDPA match or something with a bedazzled slide. People already question my sanity anyway, so why not reaffirm their thoughts? So, yeah, you can see how it's smeared around a little bit, but that will all clean off. And if you do remove a little bit too much, that's fine. Let it dry, hit it again, keep going. You'll get it. It's not difficult. It just takes, maybe a little bit of practice if you're not used to working with stuff like this. But like I said, you're not permanently damaging anything or altering anything, so I wouldn't worry about screwing it up. It's like if I wanted to say remove this, let's say I'll remove the orange on this gun since it's dry now. I would just take some patches, get some clean ones, and I'm going to saturate it with this nail polish remover. I want it pretty wet because I want it to flow down inside that engraving as much as I can. Just keep kind of scrubbing it. You'll see the orange is coming off. I'm trying not to get it into the white though. So some are easier than others. But me scrubbing this, you can see how durable it is. It's not coming off easily. It's going to take some work to get all that off of there. But another method, like I was saying, is you could take a pick or something, and you can And I just trace the letters and it will just scrape it right out of there. And once you've done that, hit it again with some nail polish remover. And you don't want to press hard enough to like damage the finish on your gun. That's not a desirable outcome, but you can just kind of trace the letters and the paint will come out. Anyway, this is going to take longer than I'd hoped to clean it. I have to be careful because I don't want to take the white off, but gives you some idea of what's involved with doing this. And like I said, it's not permanent, which is good. I think a lot of people really worry that they're going to permanently destroy their gun, and it's fun sometimes, change the color up and do dumb things just for the fun of it, because people don't really think of guns as, most people don't think of guns as anything more than a tool or a weapon, but some of us use it as a form of self-expression or feeds our need for attention or whatever. But I enjoy causing people to question their assumptions sometimes. So putting pink paint on my AR-15 is kind of fun. So it's cleaning up. It's slowly coming off. Just take some scrubbing. I'm being careful up here where the white is. I don't want to damage that. I kind of like the look of the white. So anyway, let's go back over to our compact slide. See if that is at all dry. Yeah. Well, yeah, fairly dry. The deeper the engraving, the easier it is to clean up, because you're, I don't know, how does that look? And I found this to be pretty gun solvent resistant and oil resistant. I primarily use stuff like Ballistol and Hobbies #9, and I've never had it remove the color filling off of anything that I've done, if you're worried about that. But also now you know how to do it. You can just redo it if that happens. I would tell you though to carefully clean everything first with a solvent, get all the oil and grease off, do your color fill, and then you can oil the gun and it won't affect it at all. So anyway, it's pretty much it. That's how I do it, with either nail polish or model paint. And would I recommend one over the other? Probably nail polish, just because it's easier to acquire, and but I think they both give really good results. I think choosing the color and getting the contrast is really the key. The white, I think, looks so much better than the orange did, because it really just pops. The orange or the dark red really don't give you much contrast at all. So I would say, keep that in mind when you're picking colors. So, or just raid your partner's, nail polish collection. That'll be popular.